Nikki Haley, who is making a big push to beat Trump in New Hampshire, seems unlikely based on polling, but it's harder to discern in New Hampshire, just to give her side of things, because open primaries, independents regularly vote, even Democrats, they can vote in this primary too. It's just a different process in New Hampshire, and the Republicans in New Hampshire are technically more like moderate New England style Republicans who would be more drawn to a Nikki Haley over a Trump in theory, but Trump still leads hers in polling by basically every poll that you look at. And that primary is going to be on Tuesday. She got into some hot water recently in New Hampshire speaking about the Civil War, and she didn't say slavery one time in the question about it. And the guy asking her the question said, I'm floored, essentially, that you would not say the word slavery. Then at the next debate, she took a totally kind of different tone, more moderate, more critical of Trump on January 6th, speaking about abortion in a relatively compassionate way for a Republican, and the bar is the floor, obviously. But it seemed like she kind of had to recalibrate and go, shoot. I need these more moderate Republican voters in New Hampshire. If I have a snowball's chance in hell, I've got New Hampshire snowball's chance in hell. I have got to do well in New Hampshire, if not win it, because I need this Koch brothers money. One of them's dead, but their fund or whatever, to keep funding me, because a lot of money has come to her that isn't going to DeSantis anymore. She may have taken a step back in that effort here. What the hell was she thinking? Here we go.
I ask you about a comment you made earlier this week. You said that America has, quote, never been a racist country, unquote. Protections for the institution of slavery were written into the U.S. Constitution. The White House was built with slave labor. Your home state of South Carolina seceded from the Union, fought a war to defend the enslavement of black people. I understand you don't think America is a racist country now, but we're here at a college. Do you really think as a historical matter, America has never been a racist country?
I mean, think about what you're saying. First of all, I will tell you, when you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that, men are created equal with unalienable rights, right? That was what we all knew. But what I look at it as is I was a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town. We had plenty of racism that we had to deal with. But my parents never said we lived in a racist country. And I'm so thankful they didn't. Because for every brown and black child out there, if you tell them they live or were born in a racist country, you're immediately telling them they don't have a chance. And my parents would always say, you may have challenges. And yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country. And so I think it's important that we tell all kids that, look, America is not perfect. We have our stains. We know that. But our goal should always be to make today better than yesterday. It's hugely important. And that's the problem I have, is we have too many people with this national self-loathing. It is killing our country. We have got to go back to loving America. We are blessed because that little brown girl in that small rural town in South Carolina, she grew up to become the first female minority governor in history. She then went on to be UN ambassador, and now she's running for president of the United States. I want every brown and black child to see that and say, no, I don't live in a country that was formed on racism. I live in a country where they wanted all people to be equal and to make sure that they had life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay, but just to...
Do we have his follow-up? Can we see if we can find that? Let's see if Bradley's going to look that up, because I need to hear if he asked the obvious question there, which is, okay, you're making the claim now when you're talking to black and brown kids in the United States that America is not a racist country. But that was not the question. First of all, that's laughable, of course. But the question was, you said that America has never been a racist country, and as Tapper aptly points out, slave labor built our Washington, D.C. landmarks. The slavery was in the Constitution. It is such a laughable claim, especially from a governor that took down the Confederate flag when she was in office, basically listening to some of the activists that were pushing for that on the claiming that it was a symbol of that racism. So
Which
she
dragged
knows.
her feet on also, by the way.
Of course she dragged her feet on.
She didn't do it until the Charleston shooting anyway. So.
She did. And then and there was an activist woman that climbed the flagpole and took it down. There were wonderful anti-racist groups that pushed her on this, but she did it, meaning she understood the historical racism that was undergirding their claims, and yet now she's playing dumb.
It's really rich. I don't know if you'll recall, Emma, the her initial foray into the ad space for her campaign when she was announcing, when she was like, I was born on one side of the tracks.
Yeah.
Where the white people were on one side and the other people were on the other side. But I never felt like I was any different or that there was any sort of like handicap for me. It's like, I wonder why the white people were on one side of the tracks and then the other minorities supposedly were on the other. That's interesting. And then now she at least is more willing to say that there was some racism on an individual level. But overall, to me, this is the most gentle way of someone to basically express their views on the woke mind virus.
Yes.
This is basically Nikki Haley very gently saying, racism doesn't exist. It's a mindset. And
yeah.
if you're told that you're going to be less successful because of your ethnicity, you're going to do worse as a person.
Yeah. I mean, it
doesn't actually
make your bed
head.
in the morning.
Yeah, it is the most gentle way of her literally espousing like the Elon Musk, far right Groyper bullshit about wokeness.
Yeah. All right. Here's what Tapper said.
Just to push back a bit, because I was a history major in New Hampshire. You're talking about the ideals of America. But America was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery.
But when you look at said all men are created equal, I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal. They made sure women became equal too. All of these things happened over time. But I refuse to believe that the premise of when they formed our country was based on the fact that it was a racist country to start with. I refuse to believe that. I have to know in my heart and in everybody's heart that we live in the best country in the world, and we are a work in progress, and we've got a long way to go to fix all of our little kinks. But I truly believe our founding fathers had the best of intentions when they started, and we fixed it along the way, and we should always look at it that way.
So silly chicken shit. I mean, what else
This
do
is
you
a
want
real
to say?
feelings don't care about your facts argument. from Nikki
Exactly.
Haley. She literally says, I just can't accept it. I will not accept it.
I will not accept
Despite reams of evidence to the contrary, I will not accept it. Now, let me take a long sip of coffee and look at the Mississippi state constitution from 1860 explaining why they were seceding from the Union.
Yeah, it's a laughable claim. It's a laughable claim. No one is speaking individually about the moral character of the saintly founding fathers that she holds so dear and apparently seemingly prays to or something like that, because they can do no wrong. The founding fathers were human beings too. They're like, the idea that they had racist or not racist intentions would mean that they had a modern conception of what racism was, as opposed to what was the order of things, which was that black people were property. So I don't know, they weren't really talking about how a white fragility at that point in history. It just was completely embedded into the fabric of society at that point. So I mean, she just has to filibuster, but I really am shocked that she returns to this or regresses to this point. Maybe she feels comfortable now with New Hampshire. Like, she's operating incredibly cynically. Does she feel comfortable with where she's at in New Hampshire? Does she think that New Hampshire voters are going to be more in favor of this argument, even though those in South Carolina would be more likely to accept this kind of lost cause stuff. But damn, she's walking some sort of tightrope, and I'm not sure what the end game is.
I mean, in my view, the reason why I think her cynicism and that the depravity within that cynicism is basically boundless is that she is doing her absolute level best to skate the line on all of the culture war, economic populist stuff, while being a little bit less rowdy or debaucherous as Trump is when he talks about it, while also sort of deflecting most of, if not all of, the criticism of Trump, because as much as she wants to potentially win this nomination, I think she's realistic enough to know that she won't.
Yeah.
But she just also knows that she does want to have a bit of a soft landing when she inevitably drops out and endorses Trump.
Yeah. That's I think that's a fair read of things here.
Because this is all pro wrestling shit for the Republicans who are ultimately going to fall in line behind Trump, the non-never Trumper sect, because Vivek and Trump had some heat for approximately 48 hours until Vivek was like, no, I'll drop out. Let me on stage. Let me give you a hug. Like, there's no that this stuff dissipates the second the ring kissing starts. So Haley knows her spot for until Trump dies or goes to jail. She knows that she's got to be a slight lockstep before 2028 to at least be seen as a slight descendant of the big guy.
Vox Populi says her fundamentalism to the founding fathers myth is a straitjacket. She sounds so nervous answering because she knows it's bunk. Of course she does. She's not an idiot. Christmas Tree Farm, Nikki Haley, I didn't mention racism to that journalist at my press conference because otherwise young POC would think that they don't have a chance. Also, Nikki Haley, young women have depression because of trans people. Not. The Native Americans weren't ever equal, even now. The good point.